For spine-chilling revelations, terrifying secrets exposed by haunted night shift workers. Jessica had another late shift at the rundown convenience store in Elmwood, a town marred by economic despair and dark whispers that drifted in the night. As she clocked in, shadows flickered around her, and a chill crawled down her spine. The air felt thick with dread. Was it just the fluorescent lights buzzing above, or did the darkness really hold something sinister? Her co-workers often spoke of haunted night shift workers, experiences that would make anyone's skin crawl. And tonight, Jessica felt every bit of that terror as she restocked shelves that seemed to rearrange themselves overnight. Candy bars sat differently, the milk curiously perched on the top shelf. How had that happened? A cold sweat tickled her forehead as she scanned the empty aisles. Was fatigue playing tricks on her mind? Outside, the echoes of laughter mixed with distant cries clawed at the silence, a bone-chilling chorus that sent ripples of unease deep into her gut. She couldn't shake the feeling that eyes were watching her from the dark corners, an unseen presence lurking, waiting. With her daughter, Lily, counting on her, she pushed those thoughts aside, refusing to let fear seep in, yet it gnawed at her resolve. As the minutes passed, Jessica noticed Cole, a grizzled war veteran, leaning against the counter with a watchful eye. They had shared many late nights, shrouded in the uneasy ambience of the store. "Ever heard about the vengeful spirit of Elmwood?" he asked, his voice steady but laced with an urgency that made her heart race. The legend crept into their conversations like fog. It was a story that loomed heavily over the town. Young adults had gone missing, leaving only whispers behind. Jessica believed the town hid secrets darker than the streets that swallowed their footsteps. "Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue." Jessica looked back towards Cole, only to see a nervous flicker in his eyes as he shared his own fears about the councilman. "He's not what he seems," Cole warned, his words dripping with a knowing dread. Jessica's heart raced. She couldn't silence the feeling that his charm masked something darker, perhaps the key to the town's unspoken fears. As she prepared for another long night, the atmosphere shifted. Moments of eerie stillness collided with the weight of undeniable dread. A sudden clatter made her jump, her pulse quickening. The fluorescent lights above trembled, intensifying the shadows that loomed. And then it happened. A child's joyous laugh echoed through the aisles, sending ice through her veins. Her breath caught as she turned, panic surging. "Lily?" Silence swallowed her voice as her heart screamed. The realization washed over her like a crushing wave. Lily's tiny form was nowhere to be found. Darkness swallowed the store, and her instincts screamed that something far more sinister than a simple disappearance was at play. Who could she trust in this haunting silence? Why did the air feel so thick, suffocating her hope? The chill of dread swept through her, knowing fight or flight was no longer a choice. The store felt impossibly vast in the dark, the fluorescent lights buzzing with an electric tension that added to her rising panic. Jessica's hands trembled as she gripped the edge of the counter, her knuckles white. "Lily." The name slipped from her lips like a whispered prayer. The chilling silence pressed against her ears, making her feel even more alone. Had she been careless? Had Lily slipped away while she was distracted? The thought clawed at her, but something deep down told her that this was not just a simple mistake. Shadows swarmed at the edges of her vision, flickering just beyond the reach of the dim light. Were they real, or was her mind betraying her in the haze of midnight fear? She stepped into the aisle, heart hammering like a warped drum. The laughter, now muffled and twisted, echoed through her thoughts, intertwining with the fleeting images of Lily's bright smile. "It's just a game," she muttered, approaching the candy section where the eerie noise had drifted from. It's just a game. But the moment was anything but playful. As she turned the corner, the vibrant colors of candy wrappers loomed hollow and grotesque in the dim glow. Desperation clawed at her throat. "Lily!" She called again, voice tinged with panic, but only silence answered her. Then she saw it. A small, ragged toy lying on the floor at the end of the aisle, a hand-me-down she had given Lily not long ago. It was about to get darker. Cold gathered in her stomach as an ancient shiver coursed through her veins. How could it have ended up here, alone and abandoned? Jessica crouched down, reaching for the toy, but it felt suffocatingly out of place, like an omen, a whisper barely heard above the suffocating noise of her own breath. Just then, the lights flickered violently, plunging the store into a momentary darkness that felt like an eternity. When they returned, something was wrong. She wasn't alone anymore. A figure stood at the end of the aisle, cloaked in shadow. Jessica's breath caught, heart racing like a wild creature trapped in her chest. It was too dark to see clearly, but she could feel its gaze pierce through the veil of gloom. "Lily?" She dared to step closer, the word hanging heavy in the humid air. The figure remained still, watching her with a terrible patience. Panic surged. "What do you want?" With that, the laughter returned, louder and more sinister, cascading through the store like a rushing river. A sense of dread laced with frustration filled her. What was happening? Time twisted, each second stretched, pulling her deeper into a vortex of horror. "Help me!" A voice, one that sounded impossibly familiar, rang through the darkness. It was Lily's voice, but distorted, as if the air twisted it around rumors of despair and haunting secrets. The figure gestured slowly, and Jessica could only gasp. What was she meant to do? Fear gripped her, but a flicker of determination ignited within. "I will find you," she shouted into the shadowed void. Then, the figure spoke, words curling in the air like smoke. "Not if you continue to fail." Jessica's chest tightened as the realization slammed into her. The game had changed, and whatever lurked in the shadows was now playing for keeps. She staggered back, the cool tile slipping beneath her feet as panic broke through her paralysis. What had she awakened in Elmwood? What was the price of her search for Lily? With each frantic step, she knew time was running out, and every second could lead to an irreversible conclusion. Who was she to defy whatever darkness was now entwined with her fate? Resolute, Jessica steadied herself. There was no turning back. She would confront the terror, and she would uncover the truth whether or not it was a truth meant to be unearthed. She could hear the laughter again, but this time it was joined by an echoing chant, distant but insistent. "You'll pay, you must pay, you'll pay." With every fiber of her being, she raced toward the source of the voices, her heart pounding a frantic rhythm as the chilling shadows beckoned her closer to the edge of the unknown. But she was ready. Or was she? In that moment, a deep dread settled in her gut. Could she truly face whatever was waiting for her in the darkness? Was there still a way to save Lily, or was she merely walking into a trap? As fear prickled her skin, she wondered what awaited her at the end of this desperate chase. The air thickened as Jessica pushed deeper into the store. Each step echoed like a drum, but the laughter followed her, curling around her like a suffocating mist. "You'll pay," it taunted, a dark harmony wrapping her in unease. She rushed past the aisles, the fluorescent lights flickering like dying stars overhead. Hunched figures seemed to shimmer at the very edge of her vision, twisting and withdrawing as she darted closer. "Lily," she called again, but it felt like shouting into an abyss. With each turn she took, the aisles grew longer, more labyrinthine. Time bled together, every blink felt like a minute lost. The store's layout had shifted, unfamiliar shelves stretching into infinity. The whispers worsened, a cacophony of unseen voices, threading words of despair and mockery through her mind. "You must pay." The toy lay abandoned still, but now more toys joined it, a graveyard of forgotten playthings. Some stuffed animals stared back, their glassy eyes reflecting the dim light. A barely audible whisper drifted from them, a plea wrapped in agony. "Help us!" Jessica clutched her temples, attempts to block out the sound only intensifying the sensation of being watched. She turned sharply, heart hammering against her ribs as she felt the familiar yet sinister grip of dread once more. Whatever had taken hold of the store, it was feeding off her fear. Suddenly, the lights overhead exploded in a shower of sparks, and darkness engulfed her. She stumbled forward, instincts kicking in. Her breaths came rapidly, but she forced herself to stay calm, certain that panic would only lead her astray. Then, in the stillness, she heard its soft whispers weaving through the dark, growing louder, more frantic. Find us, it knows, Lily." It was all she could muster. But the darkness answered with a chilling silence that wrapped around her. And then came a thudding noise, the sound of footsteps echoing against the tiles. Someone, or something, was approaching. She barely captured a glimpse, a sheer shape moving fluidly from one end of the aisle to the other before vanishing. "Don't look!" a voice rang out, deep and gravelly, like rusted metal scraping against her sanity. "You cannot look if you wish to survive." Heart racing, she squeezed her eyes shut, driving her resolve forward. She had to find Lily before she was swallowed by the shadows. But how could she escape this haunting playground, where every corner held echoes of despair? "Show yourself!" Jessica yelled, the command resonating with her inner strength fought back against the encroaching darkness. The laughter twisted into a howling gale, and she flung open her eyes and darted toward what she thought might be the exit, each kick against the cold floor resonating with urgency. Suddenly, the shadowed corners of the store coalesced, shapes lunged at her, figures she recognized. They were the lost ones, children just like Lily, eyes vacant and expressionless, casting accusing glares. "We tried to help." A gasp left her lips. Jessica's thoughts spiraled. Had she disturbed something ancient and hungry? These figures mirrored her daughter's innocence, twisted into echoes of despair. But there was something still, beneath their ghostly presence, a chance. She was running out of time. "I'll find you, Lily. I promise." With a newfound desperation, she spun, searching for the path that would lead her to her daughter. But the darkness ebbed and flowed around her, pulling her deeper into its grasp. A sudden crash resonated behind her, rattling the shelves like thunder. She turned, finding the source. The figure from before had manifested again, cloaked and menacing. "You thought this was a game?" "No!" Jessica shouted back, her voice trembling but fierce. "Where is she?" The figure raised a hand, and a flicker of lights illuminated its face, grotesque yet familiar. It grinned, revealing teeth stained with darkness that seemed to stretch indefinitely. "To find her, you must first lose everything." The floor rumbled, a slamming sound erupting around her. Jessica felt the store fold inward, the shelves tilting and leaning as though they were alive. She stumbled, dread pooling in the pit of her stomach. It was a trap, a web woven from her own fears and insecurities. Just then, a small voice sliced through the chaos, breaking the illusion. "Jessica! I'm here." But the voice crackled, fading into the heightening noise around her. Jessica's heart soared and plummeted all at once. Could it be? "Lily! All you have to do is listen." The figure cackled, as laughter echoed and expanded, wrapping it all in shadow. As the darkness threatened to swallow her whole, Jessica realized there was one last chance to expose the truth hidden within the depths of terror. "Where?" she demanded of the trembling shadows. But even as she yelled, she could feel the shadows wrapping around her like a suffocating embrace, tightening their grip. Then everything went black. Was this the end? Or a chance to finally reach her daughter? Jessica gasped, her lungs burning for air as a wave of darkness enveloped her completely. The chilling whispers continued, now a relentless chant echoing in her mind, "You'll never escape, you'll lose her forever." Her body trembled, but she fought to breathe. The sensation of being watched closed in tighter, fingers of dark intent wrapping around her throat, squeezing the air from her lungs. She had to fight back. "Lily!" she gasped, forcing her voice to rise above the suffocating panic. "I'm coming. Just hold on." But the shadows only shifted, slithering like mischievous serpents. A low growl reverberated through the darkness, as if the very store itself had come alive, angry and ancient. Without thinking, Jessica launched herself into the void, arms flailing for anything solid to hold on to. She stumbled forward, tripping over unseen objects, but the cold floor gave her no quarter. Panic surged within her, a desperation to get away from the mocking laughter now converging around her. Suddenly, there was light. A flicker broke through the veil, showing a single stuffed bear sitting in a pool of illumination, its eyes twinkling with unnatural life. She darted toward it, feeling drawn as if it pulsed with hope. "Lily, please, are you there?" she pleaded, desperation spilling from her lips. The bear's mouth opened, its voice high and thin. "You can't trust the darkness, Jessica. It lies, it wants your pain." "What pain?" Jessica echoed, confusion weaving through her hope. "I just want my daughter." "It grows from your fears," the voice choked off as another shadowed figure flitted into view. The bear recoiled, its presence retreating back into the light. The newcomer laughed, a sound that echoed with malice. The figure twisted and turned, revealing flashes of what seemed like half-formed faces of children, their mouths moving silently, as if screaming without sound. It stood, arms outstretched, beckoning her closer. "Do you see them?" it taunted. "They know how it feels to lose." "I want to lose." Jessica screamed back, but unshed tears streamed down her cheeks, molten and heavy. "What do you want from me?" The figure snickered, cutting through her resolve. "To save your daughter, you must first face what haunts you. Only then will you see." Jessica clenched her fists, muscles trembling under the weight of her sorrow. "I don't." She stumbled backward as the shelves trembled violently, books and toys crashing to the floor, a cacophony of noise clawing at her sanity. The figure jerked closer, its voice dropping to a sinister whisper. "Your fear is your prison. Let it go, let it go." She spat. Easier said than done. The shadows began to swirl around her again, cold and merciless as they tugged at her very core. Memories flashed through her mind, moments of helplessness, every failure echoing back. With each recollection, she felt that metal hand of dread tighten around her chest. Just then, through the chaos, she caught sight of another shimmer ahead. It was Lily, her silhouette just for an instant, flitting behind a collapsed aisle. "Mommy!" Fear laced her daughter's voice, a haunting melody that struck her deeply. "Lily!" Jessica yelled, propelled by determination. This was her moment. But the shadows clung to her, eager to draw her back into their dark embrace. In one swift motion, she made up her mind. "I will find you," she cried, white-hot fury burning away her terror. With a desperate leap, she charged through the blackness, unfurling her grief like wings to propel her forward. The laughter intensified, now a roaring storm. She could feel the very air thrum with power, an ultimatum that clawed at her sanity. And then, silence. An eerie stillness fell, broken only by the soft whimper of her name. "Mommy?" But it sounded different now. A whisper broken by fear, not Lily's voice, but something darker. From the depths of the shadows came a low, rumbling chuckle. "You thought freedom was so close?" Jessica's heart dropped as the realization hit. The laughter had transformed into a mocking chorus. The shadows around her began to morph again, revealing twisted reflections of herself drenched in sorrow. Each figure grinned menacingly, a reminder of all she had lost. "Face your truth," they demanded, their voices a cruel symphony of despair that echoed in her mind. "And then you may find her." The floor beneath her cracked, splintering like her resolve, the shadows closing in, ready to reclaim her. As darkness shifted and swirled, Jessica took one last desperate breath. What horrible truth lay ahead? Would she face it with courage, or would the darkness consume her whole? Time seemed to stretch as she teetered on the edge of despair, but she could still hear Lily's soft voice, faint and trembling. Mommy, help! But would Jessica survive to save her, or was she meant to become just another shadow woven into the store's dark fabric? Jessica's heart raced as the shadows conspired around her, each pulse of panic reverberating through her veins. The ghastly laughter grew louder, a sound that echoed memories of laughter exchanged in happier times with Lily. She clutched her chest, feeling as if the cold fingers of regret were tightening around her heart. Face your truth. The figures loomed closer, their faces morphing into images of her past, her failures, the moments she had turned away when Lily needed her most. The walls of her own consciousness were closing in. No! Jessica shouted, her voice breaking through the weight of despair. I want to let you take me. Not today. She shoved forward, merging her will with a surge of longing, pushing aside the faces that towered over her. They melted away with every step, dissolving into a mist of anguish. Breaking free from their grasp, she stumbled into a corridor of light, warm and inviting against the chill of regret. At the end, she saw a flicker of tiny fingers, reaching Lily's tiny hands. The warmth enveloped her like a blanket. Could this be her way out? But the shards of darkness swirled fiercely behind her, refusing to let go. It's not over, Jessica, they hissed. You can't run from your fear. It will always find you. Jessica's chest tightened as she whispered, but I have to try. With every breath, she pushed the darkness away. Memories flooded back, her daughter's laughter, the way she always smiled, even when they had nothing. The innocence of childhood that fought against the shadows of adulthood echoed in her mind. Mommy! Help! The sound drew her closer to the light ahead, and she sprinted, heart thundering, fueled by desperation. The bright space expanded as she darted around corners, the world flickering back into life with vibrant colors. Toys lined the shelves once more, music playing softly, a lullaby that wrapped around her spirit. Lily? She called out, desperation clawing at her throat. Delighted giggles danced through the air, each note a reminder of how she had longed for this moment. But the sinister whispers slithered back, lurking in the spaces between hope. This isn't real, soon you will wake. She paused, breath hitching. Wake? This isn't a dream. The shimmering scene before her began to crack, the colorful hues bubbling like the surface of a cauldron stirring maliciousness beneath. Shadows crawled forth, devouring the vibrancy around her. There is no escape, a voice boomed from the darkness, its center swirling with a density that threatened to swallow her whole. Stop it! A scream erupted from her throat, raw and primal. I will not succumb to you. Jessica pressed forward, blocking out the shadows as she refocused on the glimmer ahead. The outlines of a familiar figure danced in the distance, close yet so far. Lily! I'm coming! She barreled forward, each step a struggle against the pull of despair and darkness coiling around her feet. Mommy! The voice called again, sounding more distorted, pleading. Hurry! It sounded wrong now, like an echo of something she loved, but twisted. A chill spread through her, wrapping around her heart. Was this her daughter's voice distorted by the darkness? Or was it a trap, revealing the very essence of her fears? She took a sharp breath, glancing back at the oncoming shadows, evil faces mocking her desperation. I have to choose, she thought, eyes flaring with resolve. The light flickered again, but now it beckoned to her. Come, Jessica. Come to me. But that soothing tone was laced with something ancient and sinister. With one final surge of energy, she pushed wildly toward the fading light while the darkness surged, grasping at her ankles, pulling her back. Give and join us, it's easier, no. She cried out, scrambling forward with every ounce of strength. The moment hung in suspense, breath suspended like the frayed threads of her sanity. She reached the blinding edge where the light pulsed like a heartbeat, unsure if it held salvation or doom. Would she plunge into the light and find her daughter, or was the darkness only luring her deeper into its clutches? As her fingertips brushed against the edge, the world around her screamed in a cacophony of chaos. What awaited her on the other side? Would she find Lily's sweet embrace or become another lost memory in the shadow realm? The light flickered, pulsing ominously, as a voice whispered from the depths of darkness, "Choose wisely, you may not like the truth." Jessica's fingers grazed the boundary of the light, a sensation more palpable than any she'd ever known. It radiated warmth and promise, yet barriers loomed around her, unseen but felt a silent promise of despair. A terror dripped into her resolve with every pulse of that ominous voice echoing, "Choose wisely." She crossed the threshold, the light swallowing her ahead, her heart hammering in her chest. The world blurred for a moment, color and sound falling away. In an instant, she found herself in a vast, echoing space that felt empty yet full. It was a room where laughter once echoed, a dusty parlor with faded wallpaper and furniture draped like specters in a shroud. Memories flickered like dying embers, ghostly images of Lily playing, her laughter like silver bells. Lily? Jessica's voice wobbled, tinged with hope and dread. From the shadows, nothing stirred. There was only silence, a heavy, pressing stillness that deepened with each passing second, making it hard to breathe. The walls began to pulse and shift, the room contracting and expanding like a lung wheezing its last breaths. Jessica stepped cautiously, each footfall a hesitant promise, afraid the floor might crumble beneath her. A chill swept through the air, and then, faintly, she heard it. A whisper, the soft melody of her daughter's voice. "Mommy, play with me." "Where are you, Lily?" Panic surged through her again, overwhelming and suffocating. "Where are you?" The shadows shifted, and for a brief moment, they parted, revealing a young girl standing in the corner, framed by murky light. Her face was obscured, but Jessica felt an undeniable tug, a connection that screamed familiarity. Jessica moved closer, but as she did, the girl's smile twisted, turning from innocent delight to something unsettlingly smug. Suddenly, a laugh erupted, sharp, raucous. The shadows thickened, spiraling around her, blocking out the flickered light. The girl morphed into a dark reflection, her tiny hands transforming into sinister claws, stretching toward Jessica. "You should have stayed away," the voice converted, dripping with malice. "No. You're not my daughter," Jessica shouted, battling the encroaching darkness. Each step forward felt like wading through a swamp of despair. "But I am what you made me," the figure said, its voice echoing mockingly, mixing joy and torment. "Face it, Jessica. You abandoned me." "No. I did it for you." Jessica realized she was pleading, desperation clawing at her throat. Memories bombarded her, images of distant birthday parties, conversations interrupted by her phone, afternoons lost to her work. "Liar!" the girl shrieked, the shadows growing thicker with each word, constricting around her. The air turned icy, freezing her breath in short puffs of insecurity. Jessica felt a weight settling on her chest, pressing down like 1,000 regrets. She clenched her fists, adrenaline surging. "This isn't real. You're not real." The walls shuddered violently, pulsing with dark energy as that disembodied laughter swelled, rising in a horrific crescendo. "But I am. I am your truth." With one final push of will, Jessica surged forward, intent on tearing through the shadows to find the truth at its core, the essence of what she had lost. But the shadows twisted and shaped around her, forming walls of despair that felt alive. And just as she neared the grotesque figure, the room suddenly splintered, fragments of light bursting everywhere, panic mounting furiously as Jessica was thrown back sprawling across the floor as the darkness roared around her. Breath hitching, she fumbled to regain her footing. Was this the end? Was she truly lost in this dark echo of her past? As silence filled the air, the girl's laugh lingered in her ears, taunting, reminding her of what lay ahead, a truth she may not be ready to confront. In an instant, another flicker of hope sparked, casting the room in a new shade. A soft voice, like a whisper on the wind, brushed against her heart. "Mommy, please." But was it Lily? Or another trap waiting to ensnare her deeper? With terror strangling her hope, she readied herself to confront whatever awaited. Would she endure this darkness or lose herself entirely to the shadows? And as Jessica prepared to delve deeper into that void, the laughter erupted once more. "You'll never escape, not until you understand the truth." The silence shattered abruptly as the walls of the parlor twisted and groaned, a cacophony of tortured wood and screeching nails. Jessica's heart raced, each beat a reminder of the urgency that hung thickly in the air. The shadows pulsed and warped, tightening around her like a vice. She could hardly breathe. "Mommy." The voice, a whisper full of longing, came again, clear and pathetic. It wrapped around her like a warm blanket, pulling her toward a flicker of hope. But a deeper dread gnawed at her, the kind that bred self-doubt. Was this the real Lily calling to her? Or was it a trap designed to draw her deeper into this nightmare? Desperation clouded her thoughts, making it hard to discern what was real. Jessica took a shaky breath, forcing herself to stand tall. The room trembled beneath her feet, and flickers of the girl's sinister face haunted her vision, twisting mockingly. "Understand the truth." Jessica felt the chill of those words sink into her bones. It brought to mind the countless times she'd cursed time, wished for a second chance with Lily, the frantic calls that always seemed overshadowed by deadlines. Was it really worth it? The thought crept in, her guilt splintering through her resolve. "Are you here, Lily?" she called, though the tremor in her voice betrayed her fear. She stepped further into the oppressive dark, fighting against the pull of despair, the laughter echoing like a chant. And then, with an unsettling pop and crackle, the shadows momentarily flickered away, revealing glimpses of her past, vivid, painful memories swirling like a storm. Lily laughing on the swings at the park, Jessica waving furiously at a school play, her phone ringing right when she was supposed to be there. The light rippled and morphed into another scene, one she had all but buried, Lily crying, alone in her room, the glow of a night light barely piercing the gloom. The laughter transformed into a cacophony of weeping echoes, deepening into a wail that caused Jessica to clutch her ears. "No! No!" She shook her head, desperation gnawing at her. "I can fix it. I'll fix this." But the shadows roared, swirling violently around her, suffocating her senses. "You'll never escape this, Jessica," a hissing voice whispered, serpentine and smooth as silk. "You'll drown in this regret." Fighting against the torrent of emotion, Jessica grasped at the floating remnants of light shimmering within the darkness. Maybe she could grab hold of something real, something solid to cling to. "Lily! I'm here!" she shouted, her voice raw with anguish. In response, the darkness brightened momentarily, revealing a glimmering figure, the young girl again. But this time she stood tall, staring straight at Jessica with eyes that mirrored the very essence of anguish. "You don't understand, do you?" "No." Jessica surged forward, the urge to hold her daughter overwhelming, yet the girl's demeanor shifted. The smugness returned, taunting and cruel. "You left me, now you're trapped with me forever." In a sudden frenzy, shadows lashed out as if alive, wrapping around Jessica, pulling her into a suffocating embrace. The air thickened, her lungs burning. She could barely see anything beyond the seething blackness around her. Yet, beneath it all, the pulse of a faint light beat steadily, its warmth beckoning her. "Choose." A multitude of voices echoed all around, blending into an unbearable din. "Why can't you just come back? Come back to me." The girl's laughter rang out hauntingly, circling her like vultures. "What if I don't want to? What if I prefer it here?" Jessica's heart plummeted. Were those her true desires mirrored back at her? A grim realization sank in. She had been fleeing from truths she wasn't ready to face. The shadows clawed at her, and the room spun violently. Just when it felt like she would be consumed entirely, a sharp snap broke through the darkness. The overwhelming laughter halted. Silence flooded her ears, punctured only by her erratic heartbeat. Time for the truth, a voice breathed from the void, smoother and sweeter than honey. Will you dare face what lurks behind your fears? The shadows trembled as if anticipating Jessica's next move. And in that quiet moment of haunting stillness, she felt the weight of both terror and resolve pressing on her. She had to delve deeper into this fear. To find Lily, she needed to confront the demons, those she captured in her own neglect. With fear transforming into determination, she whispered, "I will find you, Lily." But was that enough to tear through the darkness, or would she be pulled further into this abyss? As the silence echoed back with maleficent mirth, a sliver of light flickered on the edges of reality. It drew her closer, carrying both promise and peril. As she stepped forward, the shadows recoiled, hissing, and behind her, the echoes of laughter stood waiting, dense with dark anticipation. What awaited her next felt imminent, and she could almost taste it, a truth unspoken, a fear unleashed just beyond the threshold. Would she decipher it, or fall prey to the darkness forever? Jessica plunged toward the sliver of light, heart racing as the shadows pulsed with anger behind her. She didn't know where to go or what she would find, but she felt the pull of that warmth. It promised answers, but also threatened to consume her. The echoes of laughter swirled like a storm, their icy breath chilling her skin. "Lily?" she called, though her voice trembled. It felt weak in the face of the looming darkness. The shadows twisted with a menacing crackle, taunting her, and a sharp spike of fear shot through her. Each step felt like wading through molasses, a feverish hope battling the oppressive weight of despair. She reached the edge of the light, its brilliance stark against the pitch around her. For a moment, she hesitated, contemplating the depth of the darkness behind her. Was it possible to face the truth when every part of her screamed to run? The light flickered, revealing a close-up of a door, wooden and old, covered in a thin layer of grime. "This must lead somewhere," she whispered to herself, fingers stretching toward the knob. It felt cold as she gripped it, a shiver running up her spine. Could this door be her way to Lily, or was it merely an illusion crafted by the shadows? The laughter around her morphed into a chorus of whispers, different voices pulling at her consciousness. "You don't want to go in there," they hissed. "You'll regret it," but Jessica was dizzy with the weight of unspoken truths. "Lily needs me," she said defiantly, pushing the door open. It creaked ominously, a low groan echoing back, filling the space with a palpable dread. She stepped through, heart pounding. Inside was a narrow hallway dimly lit by flickering overhead lights. The air hung heavy, saturated with the scent of decay, and each breath tasted stale and thick. Time seemed warped here, stretching infinitely beyond comprehension. As she moved deeper into the corridor, the murmurs grew clearer, taunting her as they twisted memories into grotesque forms. Each step pulled her into haunting images, times she could have been there but chose not to be. The despair of each forgotten moment crashed against her. "Mommy, where were you?" The pained echo of her daughter's voice poured like acid into her soul. "Stop!" she yelled, collapsing against a wall adorned with photographs. She felt an indescribable sorrow radiate from them, faces smiling but with hollow eyes. This isn't real. The moment she thought it couldn't get worse, the lights flickered violently, blinding her. A figure materialized from the darkness, tall and gaunt. Its features were obscured, but its voice cut through the air like a jagged knife. "You cannot run from yourself, Jessica. Who are you?" she cried, backing away. The walls of the hallway twisted, twisting her reality alongside it. Every flicker of light revealed glimpses of dread, the faces in the photographs transforming into sorrowful masks of those she had lost from her life. "You created me," it hissed. "Your neglect, your fear, your greed, you're responsible for every tear shed." The voice wrapped around her, suffocating any hope she clung to. "No. I didn't mean to." Jessica felt tears spilling down her cheeks, the weight of her guilt crashing over her like a tidal wave. Face the truth, the apparition urged, its voice pulling her closer to the brink of understanding. Or you will be trapped here forever. The shadows wiggled with sinister delight at her despair, and just as she felt she might drown in sorrow, a sudden pull jolted her back. The flickering lights fought against the consuming darkness, illuminating a door at the end of the hall. Summoning every ounce of courage, Jessica sprinted toward it, desperation igniting her pace. The darkness roared in fury, shadows clawing at her heels like wild beasts. As she reached for the handle, she heard her daughter's voice above the chaos. "Mommy! Please, find me!" With a final shove, Jessica flung the door open, plunging headlong into a world where fear and hope collided violently. The light engulfed her, and she felt herself being torn apart from within, everything she ever buried clawing to the surface. And as she fell through the doorway, her world shifted yet again, sounds of crying ringing through the air like a haunting lullaby. What awaited her in this new realm? Would she uncover the true source of her torment, or would she find only more horrors lurking in the shadows? The answer hovered tantalizingly close, just out of reach, a truth so deep, it could destroy her forever. Jessica landed hard on a cold, hard surface, the impact jarring her senses. She blinked against the light, disoriented. The echoes of sobbing lingered around her, piercing and relentless. The world before her morphed, shifting shapes and colors melting together like an oil spill. Her surroundings emerged in blurred detail, bare, cracked walls lined with peeling paint, fluorescent lights buzzing overhead, casting a sickly hue. Fear curled in her gut as reality crystallized. She was no longer in the hallway but in a sterile room resembling an abandoned clinic. Dust motes danced in the air, and the scent of antiseptic mixed with the stench of neglect. "Mommy!" A voice so small yet filled with urgency broke through the haze. Jessica turned sharply, heart lurching. "Lily?" she gasped, eyes darting. A flicker of a figure dashed behind a partition, but before she could pursue, a cold wave swept over her. Shadows slithered along the walls, pooling like dark liquid, pulsating with malevolent intent. "Did you think you could escape?" A hiss emerged from the deepening shadows. Jessica clutched her head, invasive thoughts gnawing at her mind. Memories she fought to forget bubbled up, vile and twisting, her daughter's laughter drowned out by an echoing despair. "Leave me!" she screamed, fury laced with panic. "I'm here for Lily." Laughter cascaded like shards of glass, sharp and piercing. The shadows laughed along, vibrant and alive as they elongated and contorted. Jessica felt their grasp tightening around her ankles, the chill seeping into her skin. "Face what you abandoned," the voice taunted deeper, echoing from every corner. "You are the architect of this misery." "No." Clenching her fists, she fought against the shadows circling around her. "I can't be responsible for this." Yet, as she battled the tide of darkness, an image struck her, a memory of Lily, small and innocent, pleading from the edges of Jessica's mind. How many times had she brushed aside her daughter's cries for attention, drawn in by work or personal insecurities? "Mommy, don't go," the phantom voice whispered, layered with layers of despair that echoed through the chamber. "You said you'd always be there." Jessica staggered back, the weight of her choices pressing heavily on her chest. "No. I tried. I was," but the shadows consumed her voice, drowning her in a void of shame. They unfurled, feeding off her despair. The walls around her pulsed with images of Lily's childhood captured within frames. Each snapshot pulled her further into the abyss, memories shifting in constant motion, smiles turned into tears, playtime warped into solitude. "You abandoned her," the shadows whispered, the touch of their cold fingers brushing against her skin. "You left her here, alone." "No." The word burst from her throat with desperate strength, unraveling the paralysis gripping her heart. "I will find her." Beneath the onslaught of guilt and pain, a flicker of determination ignited within. Pushing through the shrouded agony, she focused on the sound of Lily's cries, growing louder. Every sob resonated like a drum, urging her to move forward, to fight against all the darkness that accused her. Shadows recoiled as Jessica advanced, driven by urgency. She skirted around the partition, visions of her past flaring with brilliance, her daughter's laughter, the warmth of their shared moments. Those memories, too, became armor against the haunting voices. But just as she rounded the corner, an unbearable pull yanked her backward. A shroud of darkness clung to her, threatening to drag her back into the depths, whispering promises of eternal despair. Jessica struggled, fighting against the tide. "Lily!" she cried, heart racing, her pulse a frantic rhythm. With one last shove, she broke free, propelled by sheer will. There, in front of her, was a door, its worn handle beckoning. A tremble coursed through her as she reached for it. Would she finally face the truth? Would she save her daughter, or was this just another cruel trick? As she grasped the handle, the darkness unleashed one final roar, a cacophony of anguished screams wrapping around her like a shroud. The world threatened to collapse as uncertainty loomed. Would she discover the reality waiting beyond the door, or be ensnared by her darkest fears? The answer loomed just beyond her reach, agitating the shadows that danced behind her. Jessica closed her eyes, feeling the tremors of the shadows wrap tightly around her, squeezing out hope. The air buzzed with dread, a palpable entity that taunted her sanity. Memories flickered like stars fading from existence, her daughter's laughter intertwined with mournful cries, weaving a trap that pulled at her stomach. "Face your truth," the echoes hissed, taunting and desperate. It was now or never. She gripped the door handle, feeling the weight of expectation pull at every fiber of her being. "Lily!" she screamed, summoning her courage to push through. The door creaked and groaned as it opened, revealing a blinding light that illuminated a stark, empty room. The laughter faded, replaced by a haunting silence that draped over her like a heavy quilt. She stepped through the threshold into a new reality, one that mirrored her darkest fears and most cherished memories. "Mommy?" The voice, faint yet familiar, nudged at her heart like a soft breeze teasing the leaves. Jessica's breath hitched. It was Lily. "Lily! Where are you?" she called, desperation spilling from her lips. As she ventured further into this surreal environment, vibrant colors twisted and melded with muted grays, forming a warped playground that felt both inviting and terrifying. Children's swings swayed eerily in the silence, the carousel turned slowly, with no one to enjoy its whimsical music. But that voice echoed again, and Jessica felt a visceral pull as it enveloped her. "Mommy, please come. I'm here." Jessica spun around, her heart pounding like a war drum. "Lily!" Then she saw her standing at the far end of the playground. Hair dancing in the breeze and eyes sparkling like stars against moonlight, she reached out, a beacon of innocence in the dark. But the shadows, lurking at the edges of this twisted paradise, lurched forward, threatening to consume both the light and Jessica's hope. "No!" Jessica roared, fueled by a mother's instinct. She rushed toward her daughter, fighting through the haze of despair. The shadows clawed at her heels, whispering doubts and accusations that echoed in her mind. "You left her. You chose work over love." They hissed, slithering closer. "Stay away from her!" Jessica shouted fiercely, a fire igniting in her chest. As she sprinted forward, memories flashed around her, moments lost, dinners missed, and words unsaid. Every regret stung her like 1,000 tiny knives, but near the weight of those shadows, her love surged brighter than her guilt. "I have to protect her." The thought charged her limbs, quickening her steps. "Mommy!" Lily's voice cracked, cutting through the cacophony and pulling Jessica further through the darkness. Jessica finally reached her daughter, arms outstretched, and enveloped Lily in a fierce embrace. Relief washed over her like a warm tide, even as shadows swirled around them, angry and pulsating. "I'm here. I'm so sorry." Jessica whispered, choking back tears. I'll make it right. But the shadows twisted, and the specter of the girl appeared behind them, eyes vacant and cruel. You think holding her close will save you? It jeered. You can't escape your past. You'll always be chained to it. Jessica tightened her grip around Lily. No, I want to let you take her. With fierce determination, she stepped forward, pulling Lily close. We need to face this together, sweetheart. No more hiding. Together, Lily echoed, her voice soft but resolute. The shadows recoiled as they shielded each other, and Jessica felt a surge of warmth envelop them. The darkness writhed, shrieking in rage, but as they pressed forward hand in hand, light began to break through. You don't get to control our fate. Jessica yelled, the power of her love surging through her. The shadows twisted in anguish, the specter's face contorted, rage pouring from it like a thunderstorm. Face the consequences. It howled. But as Jessica and Lily advanced, the shadows began to unravel, retreating like a tide drawing away from the shore. This is our truth, and our love is stronger. Jessica proclaimed, believing every syllable she uttered. With one final push, they crashed through the barrier of darkness. A brilliant light exploded around them, bursting forth with colors and warmth, shattering the chains of guilt and regret that clung to their souls. And just like that, the void dissipated, leaving only peace in its wake. Jessica's eyes fluttered open to a sunlit park. Neighbors strolled past, children played, and laughter mingled with the sweet scent of blooming flowers. It felt surreal, comforting. Mommy? She turned slowly. Lily. A wave of emotion washed over her as she knelt, drawing her daughter into a tight embrace. I thought I lost you. Never. I'm here. They held each other, a moment to breathe, to heal, knowing they had weathered the storm together. No shadows could touch them now. As they pulled back, an understanding glimmered in Jessica's eyes. She knew her journey wasn't over. There would be struggles, but they would tackle them, hand in hand. Every moment counted now. Let us go make some memories, she said, surging forward, leading Lily into the sunlight. As they walked, the shadows lingered in the distance, but fear no longer held a grip on her heart. She would rise like the sun every day until the truth triumphed, until they both knew love was stronger than any dark whisper. And just like that, Jessica found her way home. Now, if you love this heart-pounding conclusion and want more thrilling stories like this one, you need to subscribe immediately to the channel so you don't miss the next exclusive tales. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm. Your support is crucial. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about this ending. What did you think? I want to know. And wait even one more second. Share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. This is the moment to show your support, because only true fans understand the importance of keeping this content alive.